Josh Pascal.
Josh Pascal. My cousin goes to Kentucky. She's been watching this guy. She told me,
They
she's
hooked up
really
together.
excited. Yeah, no.
Bang, bang.
His cousin hooked up with Josh
No,
Pascal.
she was saying, she's watching. She loves him.
Huge
she loves
cock.
his energy. Yeah, big old penis.
Lots of
so
lower
that's
body
always
power.
good. Yeah, and you can never have enough guys to rotate in there to get those fresh legs, to get those giant penises in your locker room, and have them going after quarterbacks.
Spencer.
And I'm excited.
What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Better Rate Mortgage Studios. This is
Shout out
episode.
Better Rate, baby.
Shout out and give me 1 sec, because we doing things a little different nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Because we got a guest in the building.
We got a guest. We're feeling good. We got Scott Bischoff in the house joining us, ready to go. Lions had a big draft. Like, they got an A+ from Pro Football Focus. A+.
Who gives a fuck about?
I don't know.
those guys?
I don't know about all that.
How do you grade a draft before you know how the people are?
It was good. It was a good draft. But
Scott taught me that lesson last year. I was like, "Hey, Scott, give us a grade," and he was like, "What the fuck do you mean? These guys haven't even stepped on the field yet."
Yeah, wait a few more years.
Yeah.
No, I mean the whole Pro Football Focus thing is they're giving a grade based on their rankings kind of thing, and it's like, well, I mean, if you like the Lions took their number 1 and number 2 graded pass rushers, right? So yeah, it's kind of like if you're playing fantasy football and you use a service to draft from, you really should walk away at the end of the draft with it telling you had a great draft. Otherwise, you're not really using their service. So,
yeah.
But
Very true.
the point you're making is that it takes time for these draft classes to pan out. And even last year, the grades that were given a short year ago are irrelevant today.
Yes, 1,000%. And that's why I want to do this with you, because we did this last year actually on my channel, and we kind of kicked ass, man. I don't want to flex or not, but we did a couple thousand views, you and I, Scott, and mostly it was you. It was me just being a fan of my team and asking you the questions about these draft picks, and just want to get you on again this year and kind of do the same thing. Obviously, we have Spence joining us.
Yeah.
We'll fuck up everything though.
Yeah, I know.
I'm joking.
Get my ugly ass off the stream. I'm gonna lose viewers for sure. Who the hell is that dude? Get him off the stream. No, but we're gonna take it pick by pick. We want to get your knowledge, your wisdom on these guys, what they can do for the team, what they're gonna bring to the Detroit Lions, and what you can see them being in the NFL.
Actually, real quick, because we were talking about PFF and the rankings.
Yeah.
Scott, what was your take on the whole Malik Willis stuff? Because I know. I don't know if you had him ranked high, but I know that he was something that you would have been okay if we took at number 2. Obviously, he didn't go until late 3rd round. Like, what was your whole take on that? And, like, I don't know. What are you feeling after that? Because it was kind of crazy. And you're not the only one, by the way.
Yeah. What's that?
You're not. I was just saying. I was letting our listeners know. Like, you're not the only one who thought highly of Malik Willis. By the way.
Yeah, and I still do. But the entire quarterback class this year just seemed to be something that teams just did not like at all. I know Pickett went early, but outside of that, they all fell to places where, generally speaking, even really bad quarterback classes don't fall as far as these guys fell. Now, specific to him, I'm still, and I'm sure I'm going to take shit for this, and I don't really care all that much. To be honest, I don't really care at all. But it's more his set of skills, and it's never been for me all along what he is as a player right now, because obviously what he is as a player right now is not what you think he's going to be in a few years if he reaches his upside, and that's the entire thing that I have been talking about with him, is if he gets to what you think he can be as a passer, as a player, then yeah, there's a lot there, right? Both as a runner and as a thrower, and I don't think he's near as raw as some do. So time will tell. We'll know in a few years whether or not the NFL slept on him a little bit. We'll know. I'd be surprised if there weren't a few. What is wrong with you? I'd be surprised if. Are you texting with somebody else? Is that what's happening?
I was taking a picture. I didn't know that you could see us.
Yeah, I didn't know you could see us either.
so distracting with what you're doing. Oh my God. So, I'm
with you though on that too, because like everyone who was talking shit on Twitter, at least on our Woodward Sports family, Adam. I just wanted to quote to them with the Tom Brady's combine photo, because and obviously now I'm not saying Malik Willis is going to be Tom Brady or anything close to that, right? But it's like, dude, it's just the draft day. Like you have no clue what the finished product of this person is going to be.
Correct, and I'll just make this point, and I would tell Adam this right now, that the Lions could have the Lions made 8 picks. They could have drafted 8 Pro Bowlers. Today, we could be looking back at this past weekend as the greatest spectacle in the history of the draft. 8 Pro Bowlers and 8 picks. It won't matter until you figure out the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
It just won't. I'm sorry, it just
I agree.
won't.
And that's what it was.
The
for
linebacker
me.
you took, the 25-year-old corner you took, the super raw safety you took, all the pass rushers, all that stuff. It's not going to matter. You have to fix the quarterback position. You do. That's the most important position in pro sports. Period. There isn't one close. And to have Malik Willis fall to you at the end of round 1, at the end of round 2, and then just keep falling, and for teams to just sort of dismiss him, I just think is crazy. In the context of what I just said, that meaning
yes,
teams are like, Tennessee's a perfect example. Tennessee's a really good football team, both sides of the ball. What's happened in the playoffs the last 2 years?
Ryan Tannehill's
their quarterback play. Ryan Tannehill has played poorly, and he just can't get them over the top. So, until the Lions figure out that position going forward, I don't want to say none of this is going to matter, because I really loved what they did in the draft. It's just, they're going to have to address that position, and it's not just as easy as saying, "Oh, we'll just do it next year." It's just not. Go back. Spence, you can do this. If you want to go back a year and look at what the quarterback rankings were the day after the draft in 2021, you'll laugh at how ridiculous they look. You will.
Spencer Rattler.
So we don't know.
Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah. Keaton Slovis was in there. Just, so these guys are about to go under the microscope for a year. And I'll just tell you, the Alabama kid is 5'10" and a half, super small. He's like a high school point guard body.
Bryce Young.
Yeah. So, and I know he's got a cannon. He's got a great arm. He's all that stuff. He's super accurate, but we're talking about a very tiny player. Ohio State quarterbacks have historically not panned out in the NFL.
Never.
It's not a knock on Stroud, and Stroud's got good size and all that stuff, but there's just the idea that they're guaranteed just because they want one next year, that they're guaranteed to find one that they love, and every other team in the NFL is just going to allow them to have that guy.
Wow.
No. So the quarterback position is going to drive all this stuff. I understand what they're doing, because they're putting, it's like building a house kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're past the point where their foundation is set, and they're just adding some of the pieces that will help them in the end. I love the class. I really did, and I thought the very bold move to make the trade up was super smart. And I know that may not be super thought of right now, but if Jamison Williams doesn't tear his ACL, he is wide receiver 1 in this class, and it's not particularly close. I think if you put Jamison Williams in last year's class, he probably challenges Jalen Waddle. He wouldn't challenge Chase, but I think he's right in that range. I don't think any of the other receivers would have been, but he did tear his ACL, so we have to consider that. And that's the only reason he's available at 12. So, but to the Willis thing, it's obviously, I want them to take risks, without taking risks at the quarterback position or making attempts to address the quarterback position. It means we have one of two things going forward. It means, one, you're looking to the future for a quarterback, and there's no guarantees you can do that. And two, the more likely outcome is they extend Jared Goff, which is like, I know. And that's where we are is I think it's more likely that the Lions extend Jared Goff, even if he has a middle of the road type of season, than it is for them to find a franchise quarterback in next year's draft, even though it's a much better class of quarterbacks without having evaluated any of these guys. It's just this is the conundrum they're in, is that without addressing the position, you're stuck with middle of the road quarterback who even if everything's perfect around him, probably can't get you over the top.
He's shown he can't.
Or who knows what the options are. We just don't know. So
yeah, for me, I was all on the Malik hype train. I was all aboard. I knew they weren't going to do it. You could see the lead on BDE. I said I knew they weren't going to do it. I knew they were going to go edge rusher, but I wanted them to. Because of that, I'm so sick of mediocre quarterback play. And when I see these guys in the chat saying, go get Baker Mayfield, Nick Foles just became a free agent, I don't give a shit about Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, or Nick Foles. I want a game-changing franchise quarterback. And maybe that's what Malik is. Maybe that's not what he is. But you don't know until you draft him. You don't know until you put him in the fire and see how he survives. And as long as we have Jared Goff, we're not going to accomplish any of my hopes and dreams as a franchise. He's proven, like you said, with a great team all around him, with the pieces all around him, he can't win a Super Bowl. He can't score a touchdown in a Super Bowl. And it's just, it hurts my heart to think about extending him for this team, because I love what they're building. I love Dan Campbell. I love Brad Holmes. They had a great draft. I'm very excited with the players they got. But as long as we have Jared Goff, the team will never be at the level that I want it to be, and that is consistently competing for Super Bowls. And people could say, "Oh yeah, you're a Lions fan. What do you got to ask that? How can you ask for that? You haven't won a playoff game in this many years." I don't care. I don't care. It's an NFL franchise. That's what NFL franchises are supposed to do. And if you want to tell me that it's changed, the culture's changed, Sheila, Brad, and Dan are doing something to Detroit, they're making a whole new chapter for the Lions franchise, then show me by doing what you need to do to go after a Super Bowl. And as long as Jared Goff is your quarterback, that's not happening. It just hurts me.
Historically, I think that's super accurate. I think it's tough to find a variety of situations where you have a middle of the road quarterback who wins a Super Bowl. Now, I know Eli won 2. I know Flacco won 1. So there are examples of that happening. It's just everything around that quarterback needs to go so perfectly well.
Yes.
For that to be even feasible. And it's unrealistic to think that that's the case. And yeah, I mean, in the end, are we going to care when the obituary of this generation's Detroit Lions is written, and Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have moved on and are no longer a part of the Lions franchise? Are we really going to care if they won an NFC North title and maybe won a playoff game or 2 or whatever it was, but never got to the championship game, the NFC championship game, or never got to the Super Bowl and didn't really win one? The entire reason we do these things, the reason that you guys are wanting to talk about the Lions right now is the hopes that they eventually win something important. And to me, winning an NFC North title over a shit Bears team and a Packers team that's moved on from Aaron Rodgers and whatever the Vikings become is not good enough.
Yeah.
So looking around the league, like, look at the quarterbacks in the AFC right now. I'm going to forget like 5 of them, but there's Russell Wilson, there's Lamar Jackson, there's Mahomes, Josh Allen,
Herbert, Carr,
but Deshaun Watson. I mean, you're really going to have to elevate the play of the quarterback. And there's 2 things involved in this. I don't want anybody to take away from this that I dislike what the Lions did, or I dislike the players that they brought on, because that's nonsense. Like, I loved, as much as I thought Thibodeau might have more, upside as a pro, there's really nothing you can argue with about Aiden Hutchinson. And we've talked about that on the network.
Yeah.
We put him on trial a couple of weeks ago, and I defended him, kind of thing. And even though I wanted them to maybe go a different way in round one, I totally get it. He's an excellent prospect. He really is. And the trade up for Jamison Williams, I think, is it's as ballsy, bold, and risky a move. It's the risk that I wanted them to take. I thought there was a little risk in taking Kayvon Thibodeau. So the concept of taking a very safe player in Hutchinson and then an absolute swing for the fences in Williams makes me very happy, because it tells me that they understand that being safe and kind of boring and just sort of developing things, safely without taking any risk is not going to get them to the promised land. So I love what they did in the draft. I think they did a great job finding value. There are players that I like and I don't like in relation to where they got them and whatever. But in the end, the quarterback position and what they choose to do is going to drive this entire thing. Now, if the Lions stumble into being able to trade for pick 1 or 2 next year, and they're able to do that, then that's great. It's just, we have to consider this. Like, do we think the Giants are going to be any good this year?
No.
Are the Falcons going to be any good this year?
No,
definitely not them.
So if the Giants are picking 1 and the Falcons are picking 2, do you really think that the Detroit Lions are just going to stroll? They're going to, stroll into the building and at the combine and have a conversation with GM of either of those teams, and then make a few calls on draft day and get them to trade out of pick 1 or 2, even though they're desperate for a quarterback too? No, that's
what kills me, is that the same people that were like, we don't need a quarterback this year, we'll just get him next year, are the same people that are saying, this Lions team's going to be better. They're going to win 8 games. They're going to win 9 games. Okay, you win 8 or 9 games, you're drafting 17, there's going to be no quarterbacks there, and nobody's going to trade you a top spot to get one of these high-tier quarterbacks that everybody says is going to be in the draft next year, because that's not how the NFL works. If somebody has an option to get a franchise-changing quarterback, they're not trading out of it. Look at the Cardinals. They drafted 2 in 2 years. They're not going to do it. You're not going to get these top 5 picks for 3 first-rounders or a first-rounder and a third-rounder next year. If it's a team that needs a quarterback, they're taking him. They're not going to give him to you.
Correct. Exactly. And so, but we also think that, I think there's some element of we trust Brad Holmes at this point, who has done a better job through 2 years than any GM that I can remember, even though Martin Mayhew did nice things. He really did.
I agree.
I think Mayhew's issues were that he couldn't take the risk when he needed to.
Yes.
He just couldn't find himself to do it. So Holmes has showed us in 2 years. He had a great draft last year. I think he had a phenomenal draft this year. The other side of it is that maybe we need to chill on their quarterback stuff and understand that there might be other ways for them to find a quarterback. Like, we've seen this, like, the Stafford deal was sort of the prototype for that kind of a thing. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a rookie. Maybe you move a couple of first round picks for a veteran guy who can, like, if you knew that Lamar Jackson was available in the next offseason and that the Lions were going to make a serious run at him, he could be. I think that would be one of those things where it's like, okay, totally get it. And I'm glad you didn't take Malik Willis. So we need to understand that there are other ways around fixing the position. And it sounds like I'm this is a bitch fest about the quarterback, but it's just the nuts and bolts of the whole thing is that, I think Holmes crushed this draft. And without addressing quarterback in the next few years, we're going to flounder around and be Spence, like you said. We're going to flounder around, and I think that did they? Tell me if I'm wrong. They finished the season 3-3 last year, right?
Yes.
Or was it 3-3-1? Whatever it was.
3-3.
So they're a 500 football team, a team over the back half of that season. They're a much better football team today than they were then. I would urge people just to look at what they've done in the wide receiver room. And think about it. In 1 year, you drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown in round 4. Last year, you had Tyrell Williams and Brashad Perriman and, a couple of other pieces. Yeah, Cephas.
Khalif Raymond.
You had some veteran guys. And now, there wasn't a lot of speed in that room, and they weren't threatening anybody. I mean, let me rephrase that. Brashad Perriman is very fast, and Tyrell Williams were very fast, but they weren't like building block type players.
Yeah.
So now you have DJ Chark here on a 1-year deal. He ran 4.34. Jamison Williams, I believe, was going to be sub 4.340 guy. Incredibly fast. So 2 lightning fast guys on the outside, opening up space, and I should probably save this for the Jamison Williams conversation, but I guess it's an example of what they've done in one component of their team in 1 year and how incredible the turnaround has been. You could say the same thing about the offensive line. Like adding Penei Sewell was almost a completing piece of what they've done on the offensive line. I would urge people just to look at the offense and tell me this year might be a growing year, but in 2 years, this could be a top 10 or better offense. It could.
Yes.
I'm with you. Yeah.
It depends on the quarterback play, but when you look at the skill position, the talent that they've acquired, the offensive line, the strengths of that unit, between you have a pretty elite left guard, you have an elite center. I think you have a rare right tackle and a average to above average left tackle, which in the NFL is kind of a hard thing to do. And to me, you've got a top 5 offensive line for a while, and an offensive line that's going to grow and get better. Their offense is loaded. Now, obviously, it needs to work. Jamison Williams needs to get back healthy and rolling. Hawkinson needs to get healthy and stay healthy, kind of stuff. But on paper and from a concept standpoint, the offense looks like it's loaded and in not necessarily next year, but in 2 years could take a step to be a very potent unit. And then I look at what's on defense and how they're adding pieces on defense, and you've got 2 young interior defensive tackles. You just added multiple edge pieces. Linebacker is not a huge need. When you're playing like a 4-2-5 type of defense, you took Derek Barnes last year, and I think there's every hope that he works. So you need a linebacker. You took a shot this year late in the draft on a player who's very productive, and then you have some pieces there now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the back end, you have Tracy Walker, who you signed long term, and then you have a couple of you have Deshaun Elliott on a 1-year deal. You have Kirby Joseph, who you added. And there are other pieces. Will Harris might end up being a cornerback instead of playing safety. And then at corner, you have Okuda returning. We don't know what's happening there. Amani Oruwariye looks like he's a legit corner too. Mike Hughes is here on a 1-year kind of prove-it deal. Jerry Jacobs is returning. He was really good last year as an undrafted free agent.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to look at this team and think, okay, 2 years ago when Holmes got this job, 2 drafts ago, huge holes everywhere. And now, it's interesting. And I think in 2 years, you're looking at a team that probably is competing for some things. We'll see what happens with the quarterback position. It's that's going to drive everything.
Do you guys want to start at the back half of this draft or at the front? Because I feel like everybody kind of already knows about Aiden and Jamison, right? Like,
yeah.
Is that cool with you? Do you want to start with like the later picks?
Whatever you guys want to do is fine. I mean, there are components of the Jamison Williams of his game that we should talk about because I think everybody's just penciled him as a vertical threat. Well, I mean, we could talk about Hutchinson too. So we have talked about him as a safe player, right?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that he's safe and boring and isn't a really good player. He's really advanced with his hands. That's where Thibodeau is very raw in his game. His first step is for a 6'6.5" dude is legit. I mean, it's freaky. And his issues where I think he looks a little different than some of the other really explosive edge rushers is that he's taller than a lot of them are. When you think about 6'6", And a lot of turning the corner as a pass rusher is reducing the amount of your body that a tackle can touch. So it's like, dipping your shoulder and making it so a tackle has to really reach for you or lunge for you, which takes away their power. And Hutchinson's going to have a more difficult time doing that just because he's so much taller than everybody else at the position. But we're talking about a guy who, his agility numbers are ridiculous. They just are. He ran a better agilities than Kyle Hamilton did. He ran better agilities than pretty much most everybody, at the combine. The short shuttle and the 3-cone time for Hutchinson are just amazing for a guy with his body. They just are. So then you look at the way he plays in his hand usage and the ability for him to understand that he's only going to win by keeping an offensive tackle's hands off of him, and he's got really good hand usage. Whether it's a 2-swipe or a single swipe move when he goes back inside, that kind of stuff. So he's very advanced as a player, and there's I think we've penciled him in as boring and safe and probably not going to grow a ton, but that doesn't mean that he can't win in a variety of ways. You know what I mean? Like I think people just assume that he's just boring and he's whatever. No, there's explosive qualities about his game, and one of the things that stands out to me is with his feet is that he's so sudden in his movements that he's on top of tackles before they expect him to be there. And in that scenario, I love that he has shorter arms. I do, because just think about it from a bench press standpoint. If you're bench pressing, like Trayvon Walker has 35-inch arms. Now, for him to extend and lock out a tackle, he's got to move him the full length of his arms. And that last couple inches, it's a huge difference. So when you watch Hutchinson, especially when he gets into a situation where he's running bull rush, right? And you can see him, and he does this very consistently. It's almost like a headbutt looking type of move. But to do it, leverage as a pass rusher or really anywhere on the football field is all about getting your hands above the level of your eyes. And that's the only way that you can create leverage, and so his suddenness to get on top of tackles, and then for him to drop his, to get his hands up and drop his head real fast when he makes that move and not have to press off a tackle all that long, because he does have shorter arms. The shorter arms actually help him. They really do. And when he is bull rushing tackles, having shorter arms it's better. So when I look at news that comes out today, like the Lions are there's news out today that their defensive coordinator is talking about how they want them to be more of a one gap penetrating system instead of playing two gaps. And there's some technical stuff there about how far they want them getting up the field. Last year they wanted them playing at the heels of the offensive linemen, and this year they're talking about wanting them penetrating up the field, and that's great for a player like Hutchinson. It just is, because he's got a two-way go a lot of times. He can beat you outside, or he's going to swim back inside. So there's a lot of variety in which he can win. I'm really excited about him as a player, and that's coming from a guy who I wanted them to take Thibodeau just because I think his upside might be more, but I still love the pick. It's a great fit. He's a great run defender. He's gritty as can be. He's going to be great. I don't know how many number 97 jerseys they're printing, but I'm pretty sure it's not enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're going to sell a ton of jerseys. He is one of the faces of this franchise right now.
Go ahead. All right.
I was just gonna say the whole town of Ann Arbor is gonna buy one of those 97 jerseys, and like you said, he's gritty. He's got that drive. He's got the motor. He's a big Dan Campbell guy, and I always hear, but he's the guy that's gonna get you 12 to 14 sacks a season, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm really cool with that. Like 12 to 14 isn't bad. That's not
elite.
a bad amount of sacks. That is a Pro Bowl number of sacks, and if he can do that, and throwing a couple forced fumbles in there. Obviously, like you said, he's a taller guy, so we've seen it. How many times have these defensive ends that don't get to the quarterback, they still bat the ball down. They jump up. I've been seeing that over the NFL
JJ Swat, baby.
more and more in the past couple of years, to where they can't get to the quarterback and they jump up and bat the ball down. And when you got a 6'6" guy on the end like that, that's pretty impressive. I think he's going to be able to do that. I think we're going to see a lot of that from him, to when he can't beat the tackle, he can still jump up and get in the passing lane. And that's, another important, that's just as good of a sack, honestly.
There's a ton of intangibles for him. Absolutely. Yeah. There are so many things that he does do well, and a lot of that, is diagnosing, reading run versus pass kind of stuff. And there's a lot to like about his game. He fits the culture here perfect. He really does. Maybe that's something that I underthought. I don't know, in the process of the Thibodeau, because I think Thibodeau would have been a fine fit here too. Like, Thibodeau's, he's a physical tough guy too. It's not that, I think there's a desire to want to call him more of a finesse player, but I don't think that's fair to what Thibodeau is. But the Hutchinson thing is, he's an intriguing player. Obviously the Lions loved him. They spent no time on the clock at all making that pick.
Yeah.
There's not much else to say other. It's an exciting player who should come in. I just think that, the idea of him being a 12 to 14 sack guy is going to take a little time. Yes. I would tell you, if he was 6 to 7 next year, that's a really good season for a rookie.
Yeah.
So we got to kind of slow our roll as far as what our expectations are for these guys. I don't know what Myles Garrett did in year one, but it takes time.
Yeah, people going from 6 to midnight on this guy. But can I ask you this though? I did something really nerdy this morning, and I went back to like some of our formations from this past year. I was trying to pinpoint like where he'd be, because I know people are probably picturing him as like a hand in the dirt type of guy, but you actually said something on draft night that you said he almost would prefer to stand up, or he's told teams that he would prefer to stand up. Do you see him as like in the outside linebacker role, or do you see us like staying true to that 4-man front, or is it gonna be like a 5-2? However the math works.
No, I think they're going to be a 4-man front, but it's if he's telling them that he prefers to stand up and it helps him find the ball, then I think that the addition of a player like Josh Pascal makes a ton of sense, because he can be more of your hand in the dirt type guy. It's a good question. I don't have a great answer for it. I know that he is verbally and outwardly told everyone he prefers to stand up. So we'll see. The Lions are moving to a 4-man front, and they are going one gap penetrating style on the defensive side of the ball. That should tell you a couple of things that I think, as a scout and as an evaluator, makes me stand up and take note. Specifically to a player like Levi Onwuzurike, he needs to play in a penetrating style. He at times can play upright, and not with great pad level. And if you're not asking him to penetrate the interior and get upfield, I think you're asking him to lose a little bit, because I'm not sure he plays with a bunch of anchor. So asking him to get up the field more than just kind of hold his gap and just maintain the integrity of his gap, I think is better for his game. I think that it's also better for a player like Aleem McNeil, because he has some twitch in that huge body. He can move. So, the idea of the Lions moving away from more of a conservative sort of hold your water defensive line in a hybrid front to an even front where you're penetrating and you're ripping through gaps. To me, it speaks to where they want to be from an aggression standpoint. And those are really good things for the players they've added.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I kind of does. I was trying to picture it this morning. This is like
something. So, what they did last year though isn't at all how they're going to line up and run things this year. It's just different.
Okay.
So
and how do you feel about that? I guess with like defenses moving forward, like, do you think there's certain base formations that like excel better than other ones too, or like you think it's just kind of just to what you got?
So to me, it's you always want to play to the strengths of the what you have personnel wise. That's one of the things that drives you nuts about sometimes like you have penetrating type players, but if you're Matt Patricia, you refuse to allow them to be penetrating type players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make a ton of sense what you're doing. And a lot of times the scheme is not as important as what the talent is that you have. So I could care less if you run a 3-man scheme and you want a 2-gap and you don't have the personnel or the body types to do that, and you're still asking players to do that, you're asking to lose. So to me, smart teams do things with their personnel to put their personnel in a position to exceed. Mm-hmm. Think about Aaron Donald not being asked to get up the field.
Yeah.
Because the defensive coordinator is so stuck on the idea that he wants him to 2-gap. And this is what we do on our defense. Well, I think that's stupid. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense for what Aaron Donald is as a player. So I think both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Put your players in a position to succeed. Period. End of story. And you're seeing the Lions transition from what they were last year, and now they're going into a more attacking style. And I think that's great for both their interior defenders, pretty much for everybody. Like the idea that they're going to let these guys go and just get after the quarterback and let them be much more aggressive and assertive is great for the players that you just added. It just is. It's great for the players that you already have. But, for what they have, I can see a situation where they deploy Hutchinson a little wider, not like wide 9 type stuff like they did with Ansa, but wider where they can allow him to use his quickness and his speed and his power, because he plays with a ton of power too. So, I think it's tough to look at what they did last year and figure out what they're going to be this year. I just, in the end, it's football. And, I think it's awesome that they're going to ask their defensive line to be more aggressive. We should be very, very happy about that. That's great news.
Yeah,
definitely.
It is.
As far as I'm not going to ask you to do that. I think it's kind of like trying to predict the future of like who'd be our 4.
Ask.
Who do you think our 4 starting down linemen are going to be in this new system?
Obviously, so I think Hutchinson's going to play a lot. Yeah. And then you're going to have a rotation of, Onwuzurike and McNeil, and Brockers is going to be in there somewhere.
Pascal,
Pascal's going to be a rotational piece, I think, in year 1, with the ability to play inside as a 3 technique.
Mm-hmm.
He is
the Okwara brothers,
So I don't know what's going to happen with Romeo Okwara. We don't know what his recovery looks like. So that's a big unknown. I think Charles Harris is going to play as a outside linebacker, pass rusher, opposite where Aiden Hutchinson is lined up.
That's okay. That's
right. So I kind of think that's where they are. So you have in run downs or 1st and 10, 2nd and 10 type situations, you might have Hutchinson and Pascal might be in there as a 3, or he might be in there as a 5 kind of thing. You could see Charles Harris being in there. You could see Romeo Okwara being in there as a pass rusher. Julian, they have the ability to match up in down and distance with just about everybody. But the really nice thing about the players they've added are these guys are they're going to be very difficult to play against. So you got a lot tougher on your defensive line. You just did. In a weekend, you went from having needs on your defensive line at the edges to filling those needs with tough, tenacious players who are really effective against the run, but also really athletic and can do things as pass rushers too. And then you look at, the depth behind them with Charles Harris and both the Okwaras and everything else that they have. And it's just, they have a lot. They have a lot of pass rushers now.
A lot.
And last year they were really bad rushing the passer. So it's a little bit like looking at the receiver. That's why I brought up the receiver room earlier. In one offseason, the Lions went from pretty empty in their receiver room to now feeling like, okay, it's pretty loaded going forward. And I think you could say the same thing about the edge position. Now, obviously, Hutchinson has to work. He's got to play up to the level of which he was drafted. Pascal's got to work. His game's super interesting. So those guys have to pan out as players, and it takes time. With Pascal, I mean, is he going to be a full-time player? No. But there's a rotation that's going to happen, and they're going to do everything that they can to put him in a situation to succeed and do really good things. So, but they are loaded at the position now. They have lots of talent there. Some of it's the unknown with like Romeo Okwara. We don't know. Who knows?
You know what, too? I was almost disappointed. I mean, Pascal, I'm hopeful for him. I'm not 100% sure on like what to read. I haven't watched much tape on him, if I'm being completely honest. But like Julian Okwara, to me, emerged a little bit as a 3 technique for us last year. I thought he had a couple good bull rushes. I think obviously he has some issues defending the run, but I thought there was still some potential in him even. But this draft is making me question a lot of things. With what I thought him.
Yeah, but I mean, you can never have enough pass rushers. You just can't. So if Okwara becomes a third down pass rushing specialist type of guy, and remember, Pascal's a rookie, so he probably is not going to play as much as we think, right? It takes time for these guys to come in and be full-time, full-time dudes. It's just that's why the Pascal thing is interesting. It doesn't mean that Julian Okwara loses snaps or gets relegated, kind of thing. We don't know with Romeo Okwara. We know Charles Harris is going to be a pass rusher for them. He is. They have lots of options and unique players who do different things to where first and 10, second and 10 type stuff. You can deploy a variety of players who can get after the quarterback. You can, if it's 3rd and 5 where you want to be disciplined and make sure that you're covering the run, you can do that too. Pascal can kick inside where Hutchinson can play outside. And then McNeil's eating up blocks and Charles Harris is coming off the corner. There's a lot of ways that they can make this work.
Football, Scott. Calm
but
down,
you
man.
need talent, right? Like you need building blocks and foundational pieces and talent to be able to do all these things. And they didn't have a ton of that last year. And it's reflective in how poor they were rushing the passer. And in one offseason, they've added a bunch of pieces that are intriguing guys. We can get into, if you want to hit Williams real fast, because I think everybody knows what Williams is as far as speed. Yeah. I think he was easily the fastest receiver in the draft. And if he doesn't tear his ACL, I think he is in play for the Jets at pick 4. I really do. He is, but that's not just the only thing he is, right? He's not just a guy who Goff is going to need, because I think this is the kind of jumping off point of the conversation is, did the Lions draft Jamison Williams for Goff, or did they draft him?
Long-term.
Yeah, is it for a player who can vertically threaten a defense, or can Goff utilize him? Absolutely, it's both.
Yeah, so like he's so fast that he could fit anything, and like obviously for Goff, we disrespect him every week anyway. I don't want to disrespect the guy, but he doesn't really throw guys open. So like I feel like
I'll disrespect him.
He needs guys like Jamison Winston. What the hell am I saying? Jamison Williams, who just gets fucking open because they're just extremely fast.
Plus also the yards after catch stuff.
Yes.
So you don't have to. With him, you don't have to chuck it 50 yards downfield to let him be effective. You can throw drags and crossers and not necessarily screens, but you can short
even
throws.
The bubble stuff with him and Swift. You know what I'm saying? Having both behind the line of scrimmage, like you have an option there, like fuck up defenses completely.
Maybe a jet sweep. Maybe get the ball in his hands in open space.
I'm going 6 to midnight,
possible,
boys.
Yes.
It's he's a playmaker.
He doesn't and you don't need to just chuck it deep to look at the way the Dolphins used Jalen Waddle last year, right? Like they did everything in their power just to get him the ball. And yeah, he had a low yards per catch, but he had a bunch of catches. Now I wouldn't think that that's in the cards, but you don't need to just throw it deep to him. And then if he's not catching 40-yard bombs, he's failing. No, I think that this is a guy who you want the ball in his hands and just letting him outrun angles. But more importantly, when he lines up on one side of the field, the safety has to be very aware of where he is. Right? Like,
Yes.
it's not just the corner covering him. It's the safety too. He's so fast. He's going to dictate coverage. The Lions have been very outspoken from an offensive standpoint that they wanted somebody who would 100% force the defense to honor his speed and dictate the coverage that was going to be played. That's him. So just because you're not throwing to him doesn't mean he's not affecting the play. So if he's dragging a safety into a part of the field where then you are exploiting, that's smart stuff. So, just his presence on the field and Chark's presence on the field with his speed is going to open up the middle parts of the field for other players. So from an offensive standpoint, from a team concept, his addition is a plus for everybody.
Yes.
It just is. So, and again, he doesn't need to
so
catch
Hawkins
90
has a
balls
weapon, too.
for – what's that?
So we still have Hawkinson as a weapon as well.
Absolutely. So now if safety has to honor Jamison Williams and then linebacker has to cover Hawkinson, that's better. If you get DeAndre Swift into more open field because that whole quadrant of the field has been vacated by coverage with Jamison running deep, whatever, that's better for your offense. So there's a lot of ways to look at Williams and his addition and think, yeah, that really was beneficial for their offense. And we can look at Josh Reynolds as kind of like a poster boy for this. The Lions offense looked pretty vanilla and pretty bland until Reynolds got here. And after Reynolds showed up, things opened up for Goff. And now you've added this super fast vertical threat who can outrun angles and outrun coverage. I mean, his addition is just so intriguing. And I know they gave up a lot for him, but to me, there's a couple ways that you can look at that. You gave up 32, 34, and 66, but you got 46 back. So
I don't
to
think
me,
they gave up
it's
a lot. I think it's really just swaps. Swaps in the first round, swap in the second round.
They gave
In the
up
third.
34.
you moved up.
Yeah.
You moved up from 32 to 12 in round one. You moved up from 66 to 46 in round two, right? And you gave up pick 34 in totality to do those things. That's the way I'm viewing it.
Yeah.
So I know you lost a player who may or may not have worked out for you. But if I told you that you were giving up pick 34 and to do that you were moving up 20 picks in round one and 20 picks in round two, I think we would say, yeah, all day long, please, thank you. And that's the way I'm viewing it. It's like, this is what they did. And there's so many ways that he impacts the offense. It's going to be super interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I'm excited. And like you said, it's going to open up the whole offense. You have DJ Chark, Jamison Williams running down the sidelines, taking the top. Safety's got to go after one of them. You have Hawk in the middle going up a seam against a linebacker.
Ooh,
You have
yeah.
DeAndre Swift coming out of the backfield, maybe facing a linebacker.
yeah.
You have Amon-Ra running across the middle, one-on-one, single coverage, trying to outrun these guys. And this is the year. I hate to bring it back to this. I know everybody's sick of this, but if Jared Goff doesn't produce this year, when are you going to produce? You got a top 5 offensive line. You got a top 10 running game. You got 2 studs on the outside.
Top
and
3 girlfriend.
a top 3 girlfriend, yeah. So you don't got to worry about the home life. And it's tough, but I'm really excited. Like you said, this is a guy the Packers wanted. This is a guy the Eagles wanted. This is who they were trading up to try to get. And Brad Holmes put it on the table and said, take the picks. I'm going out there. I'm going to get this guy. He was probably the number 1 wide receiver on their board. And they're like, oh, shit, this guy's still here at 12. We're going to go get him. And like you said, I haven't seen a GM in Detroit be that ballsy. Make those plays. Say, fuck them picks. I want my guy. And he went up there and he got him. And I'm excited. And I saw the video of him rehabbing. He's already doing cone drills. He's doing hexagon drills. He's doing light, back and forth work. And so he's not that far away. But I want them to take their time with him. I don't want them to rush him back out there on a season that nobody's really expecting much from anyways, get re-injured, and then lose him for another year. I want him to be 100% healthy, ready to go. So give him the first couple weeks of the season, let him rehab, and then put him in there. He's like a Maserati, you know, turn the sports car engine on and let him fucking go. And I'm excited for it.
Can I ask this
Absolutely.
guy?
And
what
with him,
concerns, if any, do you have of him?
Just his health. I mean, he's thin and wiry, so I don't want him taking a ton of contact. But in the end, it's just get him back to where he was pre-ACL, and as far as that goes, you know, I mean, you're not, you know, I don't know that I'd want to give him, you know, jet sweeps and all that kind of stuff. I just don't want him taking a bunch of contact.
Yeah.
But with him, he is. I mean, this is the thing: is like we have wanted Brad Holmes to do something aggressive, right? Like if there was a complaint, you know, to this point, it's been that everything has been calculated and safe and careful, and they're not doing anything with contracts. They're not overpaying anybody, kind of stuff. This was bold. This is bringing on some risk. You know, giving anytime you move up, you're giving up an opportunity to bring on, you know, a good player. So, I mean, giving up pick 34 is not a great thing to do in any situation, but you added, I mean, to me, I mean, he was the draft's best receiver, not necessarily close. And you gave up pick 34 for him. Obviously you got something on the back end too. I look at it like the Lions added 2 of the top 5 players in this draft, and I don't know how that's a problem. You gave up nothing in the future. You gave up nothing, no picks for next year to do this, and you know he is a ridiculous football player. He's just such an explosive guy.
Pat Caputo thinks it's a problem with giving up all that draft capital to move up into the first round and get an injured wide receiver. I think it's the same old Lions kind of look here, and we'd love to hear from you. You know, callers are open, lines are open. Give me a fucking break, Pat. Like, Jesus, man.
Thanks for calling in, Pat.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you could have stayed pat. You could have held on to pick 32 and taken a safety or a linebacker or whatever. And then you could have taken a wide receiver with pick 34. And in the end, it's the same type of conversation as with the quarterback. If you're not getting a franchise altering player, if you're not getting a player who can do different things, then what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, you get yourself, if you got yourself an average starting safety with pick 32 and a reasonably decent wide receiver with pick 34, okay, what is it doing for? What are we doing?
Yeah.
This team needs. You need explosive playmakers,
juice.
And you can't do that. I'm sorry, no offense to Pat, and I understand what he's saying, but you can't. You're not getting an explosive, franchise-altering player at pick 32. You're just not. Now I know the argument would be, well, the Christian Watson went there, and it's like, okay, that's fine. But Christian Watson has miles to go before he's even anywhere near what Jameson Williams is as a player, period. So, you know,
Period.
Moving on, period. Josh Pascal.
I'm excited. You know, my cousin goes to Kentucky. She's been watching this guy. She told me, you know, she's really excited. Yeah, no.
Bang, bang.
His cousin hooked up with Josh Pascal.
No, she was saying, you know, she's watched it. She loves him.
Huge
she loves
cock.
his energy. Yeah, big old penis.
Lots of lower
that's
body
always
power.
good. Yeah, and that's what, you know, like you said, you can never have enough pass rushers. You can never have enough guys to rotate in there, to get those fresh legs, to get those giant penises in your locker room and have them going after quarterbacks.
Spencer.
And I'm excited. I'm really excited. I think he brings, you know, a dog mentality too. And he's even he's the guy that is going to keep a chip on his shoulder. And I'm excited. A lot of people were saying it's a reach, and then you got Pro Football Focus saying he was their second-rated edge rusher in the draft. And so, what do you think about him?
So, pick 46. Everybody's talked about the whole culture they're trying to develop and build till we're blue in the face at this point. But there, there's a lot to be said for bringing in these guys who have faced adversity and dealt with some things and been captains in the SEC for a while and been dominant and all that stuff. I'm just going to tell you both that Trayvon Walker was the first pick in the draft, right? We know this. He has desirable traits as an athlete.
Giant penis. And
very, very little production to go with those traits. Josh Pascal is Trayvon Walker light. And he does things, the same type of stuff that Trayvon Walker does. It's not as flashy. He didn't run a 4.5. He ran I want to say he ran 4.77 at 268 pounds. But the things that he does do from a production standpoint are the things that everybody wants Trayvon Walker to become, which means in NASCAR packages, kind of things where you want to get a little smaller inside in pass rush situations. Pascal's going to tear up guards because he does have a quick first step and he's very effective at using his hands. It's one of the things that pops on film is how impactful he is with his hands and how well he uses his hands, but also how difficult he is to block because of his quickness and his stature. He's like a sawed off kind of player. I want to say he's 6'2.5" and like 268 pounds. So we're talking about a player who plays with natural leverage already because he's short and he's very stout, but he can move and he's very explosive, right? I don't think he's not like a rocket ship coming off the corner, but when you kick him inside, guards have a really hard time blocking him. He's just too quick for them. So in situations where, one of the things that everybody likes about Trayvon Walker is he's versatile. And, you can play him on the edge, but you can also play him inside because he's big enough to hold up while also being very difficult to block. The exact same stuff applies to Pascal. It's just that Pascal has been very, very productive, where Trayvon Walker is more of a projection. Josh Pascal is not. He is super productive already. So to me, he's one of the most exciting players. Like Pascal, from where I was with him, and I know this is post-draft, so people are not going to believe me, but if you didn't go edge in round 1, he was one of those guys who stood out at 32 or 34 who would have been really intriguing to bring on. Like Arnold Ebiketie was the same type where, or Boye Mafe from Minnesota. You needed, if you ignored the position at 2, you needed to hit it, at the end of round 1 or early in round 2. And Pascal was one of those guys that I looked at like he would fit, from the cancer diagnosis, from, I think that would happen when he was a freshman. And then just Google the story about his recovery and how much, he had to learn to walk again.
Wow.
He is a dude. He is a dude. And what he is as a player and everything he presents as a person is just incredible. And then throwing that guy in the locker room and adding it to Hutchinson and adding it to the other pieces that they have as edge players, and then looking at his versatility to play edge, to play a little more inside as a 5 technique or a 4-eye kind of player, on the tackle's inside shoulder, or even as a 3, which is between the guard and the tackle. I just think it is a lights out pick because of the traits he brings, the difficulty, how difficult he is to block, how tenacious and intense he is as a player. And then it's all backed up on film. It's not like this is pie in the sky. If he becomes he's already that. So not trying to get people too jazzed up about.
Oh, you are. I'm all jazzed up.
No, honestly, just throw on his film and watch it. And there's so many things to like about what he does from a technical standpoint, the way he uses his hands, how difficult he is to block. So it's all the football stuff that you love. He's a super difficult guy to block in the running game. He's very hard to stay. Like offensive linemen have a very hard time staying latched onto him. So even if he's blocked initially, he finds his way off of those blocks, which is impressive because he does not have long arms, but he's super heavy-handed, and he uses his hands really well. And then you throw in the versatility and all those things, and it's like, this is a guy who really can make plays for them in a variety of ways. Now, I know it's going to take time. And, to think about him being a, 7-8 sack guy with a bunch of run stops and all that stuff as a rookie, I think that's unrealistic. But you're going to see flashes of that kind of stuff. And he is a very difficult guy to play against. You throw him in there with Hutchinson and some of the other players, that, especially the Jackson State kid. And it's like they really improved their edge play dramatically. But also, they didn't sacrifice anything against the run, because sometimes you have to do that. Like, if you're taking an elite edge rusher, you might be giving up a little on the running game side of things, and they gave up none of that. So you drafted two pretty elite athletes and guys who move in a rare way, but guys who are just dudes who love to play football and are absolute run game defenders before they're anything else, who are also pretty elite pass rushers. It's a great pick. Now, I know the problem is that it's you double dipped on the position, and people don't like that because you've already hit the position once. Why do you need to do it again? Well, versatile. We detailed it out earlier. You had needs. You have needs. My guess is Pascal was graded for the Lions somewhere where I had him, which is in like the 30 range. They probably viewed him more favorably than some of the other edge players that went in front of him, simply because of his ability to play the run and to be a physical, tone-setting guy who fit where they are and their culture and all this stuff, while being an elite athlete and doing elite athlete things. I love that pick. It's a great pick.
Honestly, yeah. Now that I didn't know the whole story, he had to literally rehab how to walk again. Like, that's actually kind of insane, given like what he is now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that's definitely a guy you want on your team.
Yeah, I mean, there's some big picture perspective stuff with him where that this dude's dealt with adversity, and you know how he's dealt with it, and it's the reason why he's a 3-year captain at Kentucky, because of the respect he commands. Because of his work ethic, because of his desire, and all of the intangibles around him. You can't just gloss over those things. It'd be different if he was just an average athlete who was ineffective, as a pass rusher and all these things. He's an elite athlete. He can do a lot of things for this team, and he's one of the building blocks of their defensive line. And again, year one, we need to have realistic expectations for all these guys, but you can see how he fits long term in a variety of ways, being versatile enough to do a bunch of things at a high level while being a dog. Yep. And it's just the best way to put it. I mean, he is a dude.
And he's got a guy there like Michael Brockers to kind of mentor him in that role that he's already kind of used to playing in Kentucky already, just at the NFL level. Because Michael Brockers is another guy who talk it, back inside and outside and all over the place.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's there's a lot of things to love about this defensive line going forward, and I don't think you could have said that a year ago.
Who was that? Remember that big bad? There's a white defensive tackle for San Francisco. I'm trying to think of his name.
Justin Thomas.
Justin, is it Justin Thomas or Tucker?
Thomas, I think.
Solomon Thomas was there, but I'm
talking about the white guy, number 94. Like a blonde beard, who's the badass. But I don't know. That's what Pascal kind of reminds me of a little bit. He played that defensive end, it's 3-technique type thing.
Yeah, he can play. Just his ability to play as a 3 or a 4 or a 5 kind of stuff, and be super effective doing it while also being a guy who you could just unleash from the edge too. I think there's so many things about his game that are interesting. And a lot of it is his foot quickness, his leverage, his hands, all those. He's a dude. It's Justin Smith.
Justin Smith.
Justin Smith. Yeah,
that's what I was.
He's. Is
that a fair comp?
He's just a dude. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved the pick. I loved it in the moment. It felt like a letdown. We were doing day 2 coverage. Russ Brown and I was stick.
You guys killed it, by the way.
The room got quiet, and it was just like,
you're the only one smiling. You're the only one bringing the happiness at that pick. You're like, I love it. I loved him as a player, and everything that he does is high end without being like super super flashy. So we'll see what they decide to do. If they could ask him to get a little bigger, and I could see him playing a lot of 3 or some 5 where he's just eating up space. But right now, super intriguing player, very intriguing player, really good pick. Now I know I wanted to go in sequence earlier, but because we're already discussing the defensive line, I kind of want to jump towards another edge rusher that we took out of HBCU with Jackson State. Deion Sanders' first NFL draftee, if I may say. But James Houston, a former Florida recruit as well, for the people who want to downplay the fact that he played at Jackson State. What's your take on him?
So he is he's a super interesting player. He's short and thick. I want to say he's a shade over 6 foot and 240 plus pounds. A Florida transfer to Jackson State. Now, when you watch him, we have to tone all this with level of competition type stuff. Yes. Sometimes the level of competition is not all that relevant to things. If a player's fast, he's fast. It's not like, what I mean? Like, the quarterbacks who throw the ball accurately. It doesn't matter if it's like this is the Trey Lance conversation. It didn't matter that Trey Lance played at North Dakota State and threw dudes open when people would knock it because it's lower level of competition. It doesn't matter. He's still throwing everybody open. He's super accurate kind of stuff. But in this regard, there is a level of competition that we need to consider when we talk about how it translates going forward for him at the NFL level. It's not going to be as easy for him as it was at Jackson State. And I mean, like, his game is super fun to watch because it is
ridiculous watching the Jackson State highlights.
Yes. Yeah, it is ridiculous. And it's a lot of fun to watch. Just to watch him get after the quarterback and the closing speed and how explosive he is without testing super explosive. So it's not like he ran 4.45 and at 245 pounds. I think he ran 4.7. But it doesn't really mean much in the equation of what.
Oh, I think Scott froze up on us, but I mean, until we get him back, I mean, maybe I don't know if he's on his laptop. Maybe the laptop died, but no, watching him, trying to find a way to bounce it between you and I until Scott comes back. But for him to have this highlight package, where he's in only 35 appearances, as not a starter, by the way, at Florida, it's kind of I feel like should give you an idea of like how good.
It's impressive. He's a playmaker, and like Scott said, it's going to take some time for him to adapt to the level of play that he's going to see in the NFL. But he's not going to be a guy that they're asked to play every down. He's not going to be a guy they need to go out there and give him 100 snaps. He's going to be a situation guy. He's going to be the guy you bring in there. You got another edge in there. You got another speed. You bring him in the fourth quarter. He's got fresh legs, and he goes at him. And his one mission is to go back there and rip the quarterback's head off. And that's what you need. You need guys like that will fill in and that will bring that electricity to your defensive line when you've got these tackles that have been playing the whole game. They're tired. They've been getting beaten up by Pascal and Hutchinson and Okwara the whole game, and then you bring in Houston, and like I said, he's got fresh legs in the fourth quarter, and he punches them in the mouth, and they're not expecting that. They're not ready for this guy to bring that energy off of the bench, and that, like I said, he's not going to be, unless he proves me wrong, and he blows everybody out of the water, and he's a day one starter, and he's playing every snap. Nobody would like that more than me. But with what we have on the defensive line, I don't see him being that starter, that every snap guy. I see him being a positional, deep threat to get in the backfield, meaning a quarterback attacker, a quarterback assassin.
I think it was a depth move with just potential to be special, possibly. Yeah. And again, he's the third down guy. You let him. I mean, that's exactly what Deion did. This guy kind of was an outside linebacker of Florida, from what I understand, and then He went to Jackson State, and Deion's just like, yo, we just need you to get the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, you're just the dog. You're a dog kind of athlete. And I think we got Scott back as well.
Yeah, I don't, so do you guys want to just hit the start over from the top with him?
If you want, no, we got you. It's all recorded, so it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I was at a point where I was just going to talk about his, the functional makeup of his body. So he's just over 6 foot, and I don't know if you have his arm length on hand, but I mean, we're talking about a 240-pound dude with, I think he's got 34-plus-inch arms, which is really, it's an interesting body type. When you look at a guy who's shorter but really long arms, very heavy hands, and a very twitched up guy. So, his first step is good. It's really good. But, being able to use his hands the way he uses them and to jolt, and this is where the level of competition stuff comes in. You can see him jolting guards and tackles and just kind of just running through them on top of being able to run around them, right? So there's a lot of that. And I think that the reason that you take him is a nod to the idea of take pass rushers who are really athletic. And generally speaking, if you look around the league at the really good pass rushers, they're all really athletic. And with him, you see the traits. You can see the length, you can see heavy hands, and you can see his ability to move, right? So those are the things. And the knocks are kind of like level of competition type stuff. And to me, you guys nailed it. He is a pass rush only type of player who he could grow into more, but right now I think he could be a pretty lethal player that you bring off the edge, which is kind of what I think of Julian Okwara too.
Yeah.
So, you brought in Hutchinson and Pascal, who are going to be more traditional types, who are going to be on the field more. And then here's this guy who's just going to come in. And, obviously he's got a long way to go.
I'm just here to fuck shit up, sir.
Yes. And the makeup of his body and his game is all about, just getting to the quarterback. So,
yeah,
I want to say
6 feet, 244, 34.25-inch arms, explosive first step, and violent hands.
Yes. So that's the reason you draft him, because there are only so many people in the world who are, who have that kind of a body makeup. And we're talking round 6. So if James Houston makes this team and is a situational pass rusher who gives you a couple of big plays a year, that's a big deal.
For sure.
It's a big deal. And it's a gamble on the traits, and that's what he is.
1,000%. And yeah, I think we summed it up there. He's a depth piece with high upside or potential. I want to say high upside, but jumping into the secondary a bit, our guy, the 3rd-round pick, Kirby Joseph. What do you make of him at the safety position, and what should we expect of him? You think he has a potential to start week 1, or you think he'll be more of like a nickel package guy? Like, what do you see in him?
So I think, to be fair to both him as a player and also to the whole draft process and what you're getting with pick 97, I think it's kind of unrealistic to think that he starts for them early.
Okay.
He is really raw. I want to say he's a 1-year starter for Illinois, right? So, having said that, he has, really good length. He has long arms too, and he has really good length. He moves around, and when the ball's in the air, he looks a little bit like the way a receiver looks coming down with the ball. Yes. So a lot of times, you crack the joke that the reason why, the reason why defensive backs play defense because they can't catch.
Yeah.
Thing, he's not like that, or he's super competitive at the catch point. He has good ball skills. He has good length. All that stuff shows up. You can see all that stuff. You can also see him, and this is where the fit is super interesting. They played him as a single high free safety type of player at Illinois. The Lions don't really run that type of defense. They're going to have like split zones.
Yeah.
So they're going to have 2 safeties, but you can see the ground that he can cover. And in college, he was much more of a free safety than a box safety, because I don't think he's a super physical player, and I don't think that's his strength, dealing with physicality. It's just not. So I think he needs to be. He needs to be a little more physical as a run defender, and I think he's got to grow there as a player. Now, I'm not saying that he's passive or any of those things, because he's not. I think he's very willing to. I think he's very, very willing physically. I just think that he's maybe not maxed out from a strength standpoint, and that he will have issues tackling. So,
do either of you guys know his age offhand by chance? Is he younger?
I don't. I'm assuming he's 22, 23 max.
Okay.
The other corner they took in round 7's older. He's 25. But Kirby Joseph is raw.
He's 21.
21.
He's 21.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to everything you're saying. Like, he's got literally physical traits to grow as well.
Absolutely. So to me, he is a project much more. Now, I might be in the minority here, so take it with a grain of salt, because I know some people love that pick, and I didn't. I think he's more of a project than, and I think he's going to take a little time. But I'm also looking at it from the standpoint of I really wanted them to look at like a Jaquan Brisker or a Jalen Petrie. Some of these guys are a little more filled out and finished.
Yeah.
Where Kirby Joseph, I think, needs a little more time growing in his body to be able to step up and deliver some of the physical shots that he wants to. Again, I'm not saying he's passive or he's not tough or any of those things. He is. It's just I don't know that he's as physical and plays as physical as I'd want him to. But in the end, I think he is a guy who, because you do have Deshaun Elliott and you do have Tracy Walker and you have other players, you have other options where he does have time. So, does he need to step in and start day one? No, he doesn't. They have time with him. And I think it's going to take a little time with him. I don't know that I would trust him, in coverage from day one, but there's going to take a little time, and the tools are there though. So I understand the pick.
Yeah.
It's just going to take a little time.
What you said about him being the ball hawk, him being the guy that's going to attack the ball at its highest point, being the guy that's the hands team, I feel like that pairs so well with Tracy Walker, because we know Tracy Walker wants to be the thumper. Tracy Walker wants to be up there and banging dudes on the line of scrimmage, and he wants to be making those big hits. And when you pair him with somebody that has this kind of ball skills, and like you said, he's raw, he's going to take some time. I think it would be a great fit, because Deshaun Elliott is a 1-year deal, and he kind of compares to Tracy Walker with how they like to hit, how they like to play physical. And I think bringing in a guy like this to learn under both of them, to learn how to be that physical presence over the middle of the field, and to learn how to pick your hits when and where, and to when to roll up to make a play. I think it's a great fit for him, honestly.
For me, real quick too, is
there's a lot of he wants to make big hits against receivers on the sideline. He can get there. He has the ability to get there. To me, he's a player who you're going to see. I think the reality with him is that you'll see him as a core special teamer. That's his path to playing is on special teams right now. And it's going to take a little time. I could see, I'm not saying he can't play right away, but I think it's going to take a touch of time with him.
Is there anything to note with guys like that who are allowed to play that high single safety at the college level, that they're kind of a little bit more cerebral or ready to read defenses in the NFL? Or is it just a college scheme?
A lot of it's just scheme stuff. Illinois asked him to play single high. The Lions don't do that. So, he's going to have to learn, some of the things. He's going to have to learn the things that he can get away with and how to play, in the, I don't know that you want to play him in the box all that much. There's just a lot. There's going to be a lot for him to learn, and I know he's raw and he's really a 1-year player. But you're banking on the physical traits, the movement ability, and the ball skills and all those things. You're banking on all that stuff paying off at some point.
I think that highlight right there isn't that on our guy James Mitchell, or no? Am I tripping? Virginia Tech guy. I don't know. I was just looking at the highlight. Okay. Well, you kind of were down around that pick. You know, I'm just kidding.
I'm not down on it. I just
No, I'm messing with you.
Everybody's saying they needed a safety like right now to step in day one and play, and I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, and truthfully, they got one with Deshaun Elliott. You know, and
They
if
do.
worst comes to worst, Will Harrison, he's absolute trash, dude. That guy.
Yeah, you have time.
Yeah.
Like there's time. There's time for him to develop.
I'm just because we were talking defense. I'm gonna keep it there for a minute because this is kind of like outside of Jameson Williams. It's probably my favorite pick in the draft. I don't know if it's just from the highlight package and if I'm not really like reading like what he does in the football field at the linebacker position, but this kid Malcolm Rodriguez just oozes violence to me, and I love watching it. Just his highlights here. Obviously, linebacker something we wanted to address. We didn't know of how much important it is in this, this era of modern age football. But when I watched this kid, even when I watched I watched one game of tape, but it always seemed he was around the football if he wasn't making the play.
Yeah. So I mean, he is fun, isn't he? Like, I mean, there's so much to love about his game. Did you think he looked a little bit like Nakobe Dean?
Yeah, a little bit too. And you know what too? Like the size stuff, like him being a 5'11", that was like the kind of knock it seemed like on him. But then I went and looked around the league at the top, like linebackers. Bobby Wagner's not even an inch taller than him.
Yeah, you don't need to be a 6'4" linebacker. That's not something you need to be, really. You need to be somebody that's going to fill that hole, and that's going to hit hard. So.
Hell yeah, brother.
Fill that hole. We're going raw. We're filling holes. We're ready to go with this Lions draft.
Yeah, but this guy,
some of it's instincts, like the thing that just pops with him, where there are no false steps. He's a great athlete. I mean, he really is. Outrageous athlete. I want to say he ran 4.52. Vertical was something like 39, whatever it was. Outrageous vertical, outrageous broad jump, all that stuff. Elite athlete, but the instincts are just like off the charts with him.
Yes.
So my guess is when you look at his film and what he is as a player, and if you were to tell me that maybe he could have grown 2 inches and put on, I don't know what he weighs.
240.
Doesn't matter. What was it?
240.
So.
And he still runs good. Like, I think the size stuff is complete bullshit.
I thought he was smaller than 240, but if he's 240, I mean, that's.
See, actually, I got it right here. Of course, that's the one guy I didn't put the weight for. So I don't have it right here. I lied. But
we got to find it. It doesn't. I guess it doesn't matter all that much. I just think that if he were a touch taller and a touch bigger with longer arms, and that's more importantly than anything, the longer arms, he would. There's no way he would have been available.
That makes more sense.
At the point, you know what I mean? Like he just wouldn't have been available.
232 at the combine.
Okay, yeah. So you're looking at a guy who's 230 pounds.
By the way, which fucking at the linebacker position.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So a guy who runs the way he runs, who moves the way he moves with incredible instincts, right? That stuff all stands out, like the football IQ. One of the things that's super interesting that I love is that he played safety. He played safety and then kind of outgrew the position. So that's one of the things that stands out is that he can play in coverage because he did play safety. There's so much to like about what he is as a player, and he's a great tackler. But one of the issues is that there are times when he will fall off of tackles just because he doesn't have super long arms. So that's kind of like a thing, like. With shorter arms, he can get to certain areas of the field that maybe others can't get to, and even then, he might have issues finishing the play because he does have shorter arms. So, he's he is.
Even then, he's got that explosiveness once he gets there. That eventually you probably end up gang tackling with the amount of athletes we have on the field on the defensive side of the ball, like. But I like this.
It's
kid.
traits, right? Like so there's a concern there's a little bit of worry about that sawed off sort of stature and little short kind of fire plug type player. But to me, all I see is a dude who just makes plays.
Yes.
And is always kind of in place to make those plays. Super physical player. I mean, obviously you've watched him enough to have an opinion on him. I mean, is there anything that's missing from his game? Like physically?
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of like baffled he dropped as far as he did. Like I get the whole 5'11" thing. Maybe the thing that you said that made sense to me was the arm size, because I know that was concerned somewhat with Nakobe Dean. But
that's nitpicking though. Like
exactly,
it's nitpicking.
Exactly.
I mean, we're in early round 6 when they make this pick. So he's short and he has short arms, and it's all about his stature. But in the end, where does he play? I think he's a weak side linebacker, away from the strength of a formation, where you're going to just let him run. And I think that's where he wins, is just finding the ball and running to the find ball, see ball, run to ball, hit ball kind of thing. That's what he is as a player. The other component with the arm length is that he is going to struggle to get off blocks. So that's where I think he goes from like a round 3-4 player who you think can come in and help you quickly and be a player for you, who can make plays for you a lot, to where, okay, there are going to be moments where if he has to run through contact, or if teams run to his side of the ball, he might struggle to get off blocks. And he's going to struggle to get off blocks. So you might have to disguise some things and design some things for him. But, he's another one of those guys who you're banking on the traits just because of the production and the athleticism and all the things that you love about him. But starting as a special teams monster,
absolutely,
and a guy who you're going to rely, he's going to make the team. He is going to play on special teams. He's going to be dominant at times, just because of instincts to find the ball and the ability to get there. And then it's can they design a role for him? This is where I trust the Lions maybe more than a lot of other teams. Aaron Glenn and company are not bringing him in just to throw him to the wolves and let him deal with physicality and let him, get eaten up and swallowed up by offensive linemen because he has short arms. They're going to figure out something he can do. They are. And whether that's blitz gaps because he's super physical. And again, when you're shorter, you play with leverage. You have automatic leverage. And he does. It's just, I love watching his film. It's fun to watch. I mean, it just is. He's a very explosive player who can get to areas of the field where a lot of other guys can't. And there's nothing false. There's no false steps. You're not going to see a lot of him going the wrong way. So on top of him running in the low 4.5s, he might play faster than that too, because of his instincts and his ability to find the ball. And then looking back at the instinct, we talked about him playing safety, but when when you've had to grow into a position by playing somewhere else to get there, I think that's great. It's like looking at a safety who started earlier in his career as a corner, but maybe outgrew the role a little bit, but can play in coverage while also being, a physical dude who could make tackles. So to me, he's a guy who went the other way. He started as a safety and got bigger, right? But is now just a dominant kind of run and chase linebacker who it's great to take a chance on this guy. It really is, because they don't really have anybody like that.
Yeah, I think too, like to the size thing too. I'm looking at guys like Levante David, Deion Jones, Bobby Wagner. Like, they aren't necessarily big, but they're fast and make the plays. I don't know their arm links. That could be the difference there. But like, I think Deion Jones is a guy like I'd pin him to be maybe. I could have high upside, whatever. But like, I like the pairing of him and Derek Barnes in the future, especially learning under a guy like Anzalone.
Yeah,
I feel like
sure.
Anzalone can just break down the defense for him.
He can take time to develop as a player, but there's things that he can give you right away. And I mean, you know what you're getting with him. Now with like Deion Jones was a total cover. I mean, he was a monster in coverage at LSU. So that's where it's like, he like Jabril Cox was in the draft last year and he played at LSU, a very undersized linebacker, but incredible in coverage. So that's what you're asking him to, like, you're asking a player like that to play on third downs and to cover tight ends or running backs out of the backfield. This is the opposite. He's an undersized guy who's going to be dominant in run downs and, just chasing plays down. So, again, special teams guy, but a guy who's going to come in and step in, and he can play in coverage. He can do a lot of things that you want to do. It's just subtle limitations to his ability to finish plays. But that's about it as far as knocking him as a player. Just a little bit of limitations as far as finishing. But, I love the player. And, it's round 6.
It blows my mind, dude. I love the pick.
You got the Patriots taking Bailey Zappi, and we got this guy who might be, might be a starter on our offense.
Yeah, Bailey Zappi's literally drafted to be a backup.
Bailey Zappi's Kellen Moore 2.0. I was so sick of all
clipboard holder.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, if Zappi grows as a player, he's a career backup, and that's great. I mean, there's a reason to have that guy. He's a super smart player, and he, some of the arm strength is a little bit overblown. There's just not a ton of upside to his game, but I mean, remember we're talking about linebacker, and linebacker is not a premium. It's just not as critical in today's game as it used to be. Players have to affect the passing game to be super, super important in today's game. And a linebacker like Rodriguez is not all that impactful in the passing game. But, we're talking about round 6. I know some have compared him a little bit to Miles Killebrew, who was a core special teamer for the Lions for 4 years. And if that's what you get out of a pick in round 6, that's great. Yeah. If you get more, even better.
He's starting in Pittsburgh, isn't he, right now, Killebrew? Or is he a rotational piece?
I don't know for sure. I mean, I know they signed him and he's fine. Killebrew's fine.
It's just bodied by Nick Chubb.
I mean, that's Nick Chubb, dude. Who doesn't get bodied?
Well, Nick Chubb's going to body just about everybody.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
like I guess the point is, like, you took a player in round 6. I think he has a home on special teams for a bunch of years. He's a player you can build around on special teams for a while, and he's got enough skill and enough instincts that if you're asking him to play on your defense, I don't think you're missing all that much, especially letting him run and chase. Yeah. I like it.
Let me ask you about this one. This is the one that a lot of people seem to have questions about. Actually, do you have anything on Malcolm Rodriguez that you want to get out? Mitchell, the tight end out of Virginia Tech. This is the one that a lot of people are questioning in terms of like draft pick for Brad Holmes. What's your takeaway from him?
So that was the bummer of not having a pick between 97 and 107. It was like, I want to say it was 80 picks or so that they didn't have a pick. And in that range, all of the tight ends and the Lions they have a need at their second tight end position. They all kind of went. And that's about the range where, you kind of thought they would all go. Because this was a good tight end class. There were some high upside players. Like Trey McBride is a good player. Jelani Woods is a nice developmental tight end kind of player. But all those guys went. So in the range where you took Kirby Joseph, between, when you took Kirby Joseph and where Mitchell went, a slew of tight ends that you wanted went. Now, Mitchell, I think if Mitchell doesn't tear his ACL and plays a full season at Virginia Tech, he is not available in round 5 where they got him. He's an interesting player. He's a really good route runner. He's super fluid. He moves a little bit like a bigger, thicker wide receiver. So I think he gives defenders fits as far as the way he moves. We don't have any testing numbers on him because of the ACL, but just from watching him, he's difficult to cover. Now, you're not going to get a lot of yards after the catch with him. And I think I don't know that he's a real sudden player where like he's super explosive as a route runner kind of things. I don't think he is that. I just think he's smooth and fluid. So he's difficult to cover because he's bigger, big body, and then smooth and fluid in his routes, where he runs like he knows how to get open, like a really smooth player. Really good hands, super natural catching the ball. There's a ton of instances where you can see him the Virginia Tech offense, trust me, it did no favors for him at all. I mean, bad quarterback play. They did scheme a lot of stuff for him to get yards after the catch, kind of like where they would run like play action type stuff and run a slant with him and have everybody else go the other way, and they would scheme it to where he's running into the secondary with the ball up against safeties kind of stuff. But you're not going to get a lot of suddenness, a lot of super sharp precision in his routes. It's just he knows how to get open. He knows how how to use his body to get open, and he's really good at catching the football. A lot of one-handed type catches where ball's thrown behind him and he's able to secure it, kind of things. He adjusts his body really well. That's where he looks like a receiver. He's able to do a lot of different things to catch the football. And so you can see there's a place for him. He's a decent blocker. He's a very willing blocker. He's not George Kittle as a blocker where, he's going to just blow dudes off the ball, but he's willing. He's going to put his body. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
So he's willing. That was for Spencer. He's willing. He wants to be a good blocker. He tries. He'll put his body in the right position to block all that stuff. It's just, the ACL tear is a problem. I think he'll be ready to go by camp. He tore his ACL really early.
Yeah.
And the issues is that he's not super explosive where he's going to catch the ball and run away from everybody. It's just he is what he is, and I think he can be a very effective chain moving tight end, and I think he can grow into a reliable player who you can throw the ball to and allow him to get open against whoever's covering him. It's just a chain moving type of reliable pass catching tight end who's solid as a number 2.
Yeah, so he's thick, he's smooth, he's not gonna blow dudes off the ball, but he's great getting his hands on the ball. It sounds good to me. Sounds like the anti Eric Ebron, honestly. He's great at catching the ball. He's a willing blocker. He's not the most athletic, not sharp routes, but he gets open, he catches the ball, and like we got him late. He's gonna be our third tight end behind obviously Hawk and maybe Brock Wright. Maybe he beats out Brock Wright for that second spot, but
I think he'll have more of a role in the offense. I think red zone targets. Because I watched him like those 50-50 balls. He snatches them. These are the times I was just watching highlights and watching game tape, but like just snatching the ball out of corner's hands. You know what I'm saying? And it'd be two of those guys.
You can see how natural he is at catching the ball. He's really, he's very good at it, and it's just natural for him. I don't know. So I think this is going to be a bit of a redshirt year for him, where I wouldn't think that there's a lot in his future in year 1, but because the tight end transition is huge from college to the NFL. The playbook is huge when you look at all the run designs and the responsibilities and all that stuff. So I wouldn't expect a bunch, but I think in 2023 he is probably your number 2 pass catching tight end with some upside as a player, but he's not going to be he's not going to be a 50 catch, 700 yard, 6 touchdown tight end. I don't think that's in his future. I just think that, he does offer you some intrigue as a pass catcher. It's just, he's capped from a sense of he's really good at getting open. He's smooth and fluid. There's a lot of like rounding off of his routes kind of stuff where there's not a lot of sharp breaks and that kind of stuff. But, I think he's going to give you enough that you drafted your tight end too, and there's a need there. They have a need.
Yep. And then the last guy, obviously our 7th round pick, or maybe they got him 6th round, I'm not 100% sure, but it's something Lucas. I forget the first name. I don't even know if this gentleman will make the team this year. I'm not 100% sure, but we have a shit ton of corners on this team. From what I've heard and what I've watched, he's like a real rah-rah guy. He's a Dan Campbell type of guy. He's 25, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Any big takeaways from him, or is it kind of just like what you expect in a 7th-round pick?
Well, yeah, I mean it's a 7th-round pick, so it's a bit of a shot in the dark kind of a thing. He's very he's not raw by any stretch. He's played for 5 years. I think he understands what offenses are trying to do. He understands route concepts and all that stuff, as you would expect. He's played for a long time. He's quick out of his back pedal. If he sees it in front of him, he's very quick to get there. So with him, you see a lot of inside outside versatility at Arizona State, where he played out of the slot, he played outside. So the issues is that he's smaller and he's on the older side, and there's a lot of mistakes on film where some of it's overly aggressive stuff where you'll see him try to jump routes and he'll either get beat or maybe not. He's just not able to make plays. And then you'll see a lot of grabbing. He's grabby where there's some penalties. So a lot of that stuff kind of goes together. Like if you're overly aggressive as a corner and you're beat, you're going to take penalties. So you can see a lot of that stuff on film. He's willing as a run defender, but a lot of his style as a run defender is almost like ankle biting, sort of just kind of throwing himself to try to make tackles. It's not super like there's not a lot of technique in what he does as a tackler. So there's some of that stuff, and he's super aggressive. So he is there. There are times when he gets fried with that aggressiveness. So you're looking at an older player who probably isn't going to grow very much. I mean, it's an interesting pick, but I don't know what his future is here, outside of maybe being a slot corner and a special teamer type of guy.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that's why I don't want to waste too much time on him. But to speak of time, Scott, you spent like an hour 40 minutes with us, man. I really appreciate you, because anytime you get on with us, like not only like obviously we're blessing to the people who listen to the show, but like I truly come away educated and verifying things, and like sometimes checking off boxes I originally thought, or things I don't know, man. I just love the way you speak about the game of football, the way you articulate these things.
I love being on with you guys, and I appreciate you having me on. It's awesome. It's very cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Scott
Spence.
Bischoff.
Yeah, do you want to throw people your Twitter real quick so they can follow you?
It's at Bischoff_Scott.
There we go.
Perfecto.
Easy
Thank
as
you.
that.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thanks for doing it. Shout out Better Rate Mortgage one more time. My boys told me to shout them out. Shout out Max of Flame. Shout out Nick the Ruler. So appreciate them. Appreciate you, Scott. And I think we're wrapping it up there. It was a long episode, a lot to get through with this great Lions draft. Again, A+ from Pro Football Focus. I don't know about all that, but I really liked what we did. And we got a couple pieces. We got a difference maker on both sides of the ball. We got some great secondary pieces, and I'm just excited. I'm ready for football to start again, but now we got to wait. Now's when the waiting starts. Draft's over.
Yes.
Now we're waiting, and so
yeah,
I'm excited though. Thanks so much, Scott, and everybody else.
Anytime, guys. It was great to be on with you guys.
Yeah, it's always great to have you on. Like Easy said, you're the smartest guy in the room always when you're talking football. And
nope.
No. But we appreciate it. We appreciate all you too, listening, liking, subscribing. Like, subscribe, share, get the word out there. And
be a friend, tell a friend.
Be a friend, tell a friend. We'll catch you later. Peace.
Scott, thank you, man.
Give me some ganja. 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 Give me some ganja.